Hey kids, it's Bobo here, and you're listening to the wildest, most far out, wiggling podcast, Anime Egotists. We love you, beauty.
And welcome back to the Anime Egotists, where neither one of us would win Total Drama Island.
Yeah, I think we'd make it pretty far, but we'd get voted off towards the end.
Maybe the merge where the teams come together, but I don't think we make it much further than that.
Yeah, we're the characters that aren't good enough to win, but aren't bad enough to vote off.
Exactly. Anyways, my name's Alex, and it feels really weird when people tell me, "Oh, you have an accent." I'm like, "Do I?"
Yeah, everybody's got an accent. It just depends on what accent it is. And I'm Richard.
Yeah, I can't tell people that at work. They get weird. But anyways, Richard, we love characters in anime, and there are a lot of characters who get great development, who are lovable from start to finish. Sadly, not everybody gets that.
Exactly. So we've already done this video once before, but there are a ton of characters that just were underutilized. Is, I guess, the best word.
Yeah, characters who started off with a lot of potential. Characters who started off like thinking you might be able to do something with this, and then the writers just decide, that's what you get for hoping. No, these are the characters who just needed more to do. Do we have ways of fixing these characters? Maybe, but I don't know. We'll just have to get into that. Anyways, underutilized characters. Would you mind starting us off, please?
Sure, I can. So I've put I'm gonna butcher this, I know. Rikido Sato from My Hero Academia. His power is literally that if he eats sugar, he gets super strength, but at cost of his intelligence. And yes, it's like the more sugar
Okay,
he
I like it.
eats,
I like him already.
yeah. His hero name is Sugar Man. He's one of the students, and he does nothing. I think he's been the one episode that he had anything really where he was the main focus was during their final exams, where him and Kirishima, the guy who makes his body like stone, try to break through a large number of cement walls and tire themselves out and fail the exam because of it.
Right, he does not look at all what I expected him to look like.
Yeah, but I think that he could actually have a really interesting either story where he's kind of controlled because someone keeps feeding him sugar and he just doesn't understand what he's doing, or uh, just another person with super strength and actually going like in a fist fight with someone else, whether it's Midori or someone else who has some a similar strength level, and just kind of an interesting fight. But I don't know. I think he's kind of designated as one of the background. He's not going to ever really do anything.
Is he part of the main class, like class 1A, or oh,
Yes.
wow, I've never heard of this guy before. And I feel like I could name most of class 1A, so that says a lot when me, who's not a fan, doesn't even can't pick this guy out of a lineup.
Yeah. I debated putting I forgot what his actual name is, but he goes by Tailman as his hero name. He's the kind of normal looking guy with that all his only difference is that he has a tail, but he has actually a couple lines in different episodes where he takes part and stuff. This guy has nothing. I mean, of all the characters, I mean, there's a guy who can talk to animals who's normally a background character, but his episode, he actually overcomes his fear of talking in front of people to talk to animals to save the day. It's just this guy's done one thing, and that's fail an exam. That's it.
It's not South Park had made Scott Malkinson when they play superheroes or something, and they made his powers based on his diabetes, and I get the feeling they treated him more respectfully than Sugar Man's been treated in My Hero. That's not good.
Yeah, I'm just thinking because I think everybody else has something that takes part in the story. I that's in this class, and I guess maybe you could say that failing that exam is his, but I don't know. as I said, other characters seem to have a lot more, or even just a little bit more to do, and this guy doesn't.
Yeah, no. I'm upset because he actually sounds his powers sound fun, and now I'm like, oh, he doesn't do anything. Oh, great.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember he does have one other scene, and it's when they're moving into the dorm rooms, and he bakes a cake. But that's it.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's part of his training is that he learns how to bake sweets for himself so he can power himself up.
Goody.
Yeah, but that's again a one-off line kind of thing. So again, a guy who has a kind of interesting power, could be really really strong and all that, but just doesn't get to do anything really.
That's unfortunate, but I can co-sign on to Sugar Man.
All right, so your first one.
All right. We've talked about this character quite a bit over the years, but I feel like every time we talk about him, we never fully pinpoint what's going on with him.
Okay.
Trip from Pokemon.
Okay, yeah.
All right, he's very low on the list because I don't necessarily feel like he was underutilized, but more misutilized. Because when Trip starts off, he's very arrogant to Ash. He's not necessarily like mean-spirited like other rivals, but he's not exactly the friendliest person. And later down the line, we learn that he actually respects and looks up to Alder, the champion. But when he meets Alder and sees, Alder's kind of friendly and doesn't take things really seriously, that kind of gets him, like, crushes him a bit, and he kind of loses that respect for Alder, only to gain it back later down the line. I don't know. As much as I've been one of the few people to openly say, I actually like Trip, he had some stuff about him that I found interesting. I just feel like at times one of his biggest losses was against Silent, and that's cool in some cases, but I don't know, there was always something about him that made me go, maybe Ash should have had more to do with his transformation back to being a semi-decent person. Not to mention the whole beating Alder thing never really came to fruition, and whether you love him or hate him, that was part of his character. So I don't know. Especially after he became a better person, I'd like to have seen a rematch of some kind. But like, I don't know, their treatment of Trip was just odd for me.
I can agree. I've never been able to place exactly what it is because he's in a good number of episodes. Again, I think I did when I talked about Trip before. I did it a lot more when I had only seen like the first few episodes because I couldn't make it through Black and White.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I've seen it all the way through, he's not the worst character, but he's definitely not the best of Ash's rivals. I don't know. You're right that there's something off, and it feels like I don't know. There should be more. Maybe like him discovering how Alder is shouldn't have been because I feel like that. If I remember correctly, it's like one episode. He doesn't like. He discovers what Alder's like, decides he doesn't like him, and then it takes like that episode to wrap that up.
Something like that. I guess the other thing is, and I don't really care. This part doesn't bother me as much as everybody else, but the whole thinking Pallet Town is the boonies thing, I don't recall if that really got focus. And the thing is, Superior, the starter he picks, is supposed to be like this elegant, almost royal-like Pokemon. And I feel like we never learn, does he come from a really prominent family that kind of expects him to do well? Did they raise him a certain way? I don't know. As funny as it is sometimes to just be like, oh, you're from the country. Look at you. As funny and kind of messed up as it is, I just feel like it was, I don't know. There's a lot about Trip that's not perfect, but in my opinion, had they nailed it, I think he might have been my favorite rival because there is a lot about him that's cool, just not that's perfect.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, it because I think we get Paul's backstory, we get a little bit of Gary's. Yeah, I could definitely see this needing just something a bit more from his past to explain why he's the way he is, and then whether it's him overcoming it or embracing part of himself or something, they probably could have done it better.
Yeah. That being said, to give him some credit, I do like that he's one of Ash's rivals who openly expresses strategy over anything else. And I know I don't like to retroactively do this, but when we talk about characters who we didn't want back in Journeys, I kind of wish I had put my foot down and said, no, Trip returning would have been cool. Outside of just the cameo where he's just watching with all the rivals and Steven and all that other stuff.
Yeah, this he would have been an interesting one because especially now that Iris had taken the place as the new champion and seeing how that may have changed his dynamic or what his goals were. Is he still wanting to is he wanting to beat Iris now because she beat the champion Alder? Or is he still wanting just to beat Alder, and has he achieved that?
It's like what we said with One Piece. If Zoro beats Mihawk, then it's like, oh, Mihawk's like, oh yeah, by the way, I lost the title of best swordsman. Like that would it would completely ruin everything. But like, if they're feeling crazy enough, but Trip, like I said, not necessarily underutilized, but more misutilized.
I can understand that. All right. So my next one.
Please.
All right. So I'll do my Pokemon one. And we've brought this character up, I think, a few times, but never gone into really any detail from what I remember. And it's Tobias.
Yeah.
He's kind of thrown together, and I know it's pretty much just as a brick wall for Ash to run into headlong, pretty much, so that he's guaranteed to lose. And that's all he's kind of used for. He's another one that probably should have come back in Journeys and maybe given us his full team and all that, but we never get more than just he has at least 2 legendary Pokemon, and he's the champion of that tournament in Sinnoh, but he didn't beat Cynthia. So
And that makes me just how the hell is Cynthia able to beat all those legendary whatever. I don't know. As I kind of do agree. He really does just show up as oh, we need somebody to beat Ash because we have to keep continuing him being the main character for some reason. But I do think the problem is a lot of people still hate Tobias all these years later. No, I don't really fully understand that. So, but I'd still be interested in seeing more just because he is interesting to some extent.
I really think it would be interesting if we got to know him throughout this. Is he's maybe a legendary or rare Pokemon trainer. That's all he really wants to do. Is find some the Pokemon that are, I guess, in the legendary mythical categories and use them in his battles. And that way we could have gotten to see him maybe is not necessarily catching all of them, but like taking part in the Lake Trio storyline and stuff like that. And then I think a lot of people would like him a lot more had we gotten to know him.
Yeah, I agree. It does sort of lead into my issue though with Diamond and Pearl and Black and White to a somewhat lesser extent. There were just too many characters, like to the point where it's like, wow, you could cut some of these characters and nothing would change.
Yeah, they only really fixed it in X and Y because they were down to what, like 2 rivals, 3 if you count Serena's, 4 I guess, and a handful of friends that just appeared. I guess they were kind of packed in that one as well.
Yeah, that I give them a little more credit though, because even if the characters weren't perfect, you look at how the games treated the Tierno, Trevor, and Sean, and you're like, you know what? This is better. This is much better.
And I think the rivals were they didn't give every character like 4 rivals or and have to have a dynamic with everybody like they did in the Black and White. It seemed like everybody interacted in that series in some way.
Like I said, Black and White's the hardest series for me to rank because I can't put it at the bottom, I can't put it at the top, can't quite put it in the middle. I don't know. But as for Tobias, yeah, out of all the characters Ash has lost to in the Pokemon tournaments, he kind of just felt like, huh, this is it, huh? This is all you are, huh?
Yeah, and I think so they brought in that one guy that the Eevee trainer, but they at least brought him in for a handful of episodes before he went on to win the tournament. So at least you got some development. Tobias, I think, only shows up and it's like you see at his match before Ash's, you see him beat Ash, and then you see him win the tournament, and that's his entire story arc. And that's I know he's kind of supposed to be that mysterious character, but I would have liked to get him to know him more.
Barry should have won that tournament.
That would have been absolutely hilarious.
And then he finds everybody in the audience and they start paying him legit. He's like, huh, I've never had this type of power before.
And his dad's like, I'm proud of you. As he sits in the stands.
Yeah, but I agree. Tobias, maybe giving him a little more would have helped the blow, cushion the blow, even though I'll talk about that. I'll talk about more or about what I mean by that another day.
All right.
All right, so my next character,
Go right ahead.
Atticus Rhodes from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX.
Okay.
All right, maybe this is biased because I really like the Red Eyes, but at the same time, Atticus doesn't do that much after being saved by Jaden, even though Alexis should have saved him because, he's her brother. At the same time, though, they tease this idea that Atticus and Zane were super close, which is weird because Zane's a kind of closed off, serious person, while Atticus is this giant ham goofball. But we never really see what makes them friends. We don't get to acknowledge their friendship all that much unless you play the Tag Force games, but I guess those don't count. I don't know. It just feels like he shows up just to make some jokes, which are admittedly funny, but I just get the feeling that I don't know. He was a Shadow Rider at one point, and the big bad of that season, Kagemaru, brainwashed it, like helped him get brainwashed. So in a sense, when Atticus says, "I want to duel him and I are old friends. We have history," only to be like, "No, we're just this is the most we're gonna do with you."
I can definitely agree to this. One, I do also really like the Red Eyes deck, and two, from what I remember, he pretty much the only time I remember him dueling after that, where it was kind of a bigger deal, was I think if I remember correctly, he challenges Alexis to try to save her from the Society of Light. But other than that, I don't really remember him dueling.
He
at all.
challenges Alexis, and if he wins, they become a dueling pop idol duo. Ugh. Don't get me wrong, he's entertaining. But the crazy thing is, in season 4, they gave him a little more to do because he has a friend of his who's kind of a villain, and he's trying to save him. I think, if I recall, his name is Yusuke, but then he ends up losing, and I'm like, he has the most personal connection with this character, and he still loses. I'm not sure what you guys were thinking at this point.
Yeah, and it would have been nice to see because we'd seen the Red Eyes through Joey and Yugi using it in the Battle City in the original series, but it would be very interesting to see a full-fledged deck because he used a lot of the support cards that were out at the time for the Red Eyes deck.
Yeah,
if I remember.
That was I think what could have been cool was because he used that deck when he was Night Shroud. And at one point when he uses against Zane again, the darkness kind of takes over. Maybe he finds a way to break the darkness, but still use the Red Eyes cards rather than just the pop idol cards he had, which I give them credit for being creative with these decks, but I don't know.
Yeah, if you could say one thing, the GX decks were interesting to say the least.
Let's see, hot sauce decks, curry decks, game show decks,
a tennis deck.
No, whatever they were paying the writers of the show was not enough. But maybe then they would have dedicated some of that time to characters like Atticus or Baxter. You know what I mean? But Atticus, just he needed more.
Yeah, I can agree to that. All right, so I also have one, but it's kind of a group of characters.
Sure.
And it's the Rare Hunters from the original series.
All of them together, or just okay? Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I kind of put them. I started out with Strings because I always found Strings the most freaky but interesting kind of character because he doesn't talk except for when Merrick's talking through him. And I think it would just we could have gotten some episodes of Merrick trying to not necessarily give whatever he promised them, but help these people that he drove to help to control with Arcana, Strings, the guy who used the Exodia deck, the two mask guys. I think that it'd be kind of just interesting, and whether they all develop any sort of like make any sort of improvements on their character would kind of be interesting, but also just get to know some of these characters, because we get Arcana's backstory of being a disfigured magician and losing the love of his life by driving her away, I think. But I think this could be interesting if just giving them a bit more, because we got pretty much all of the original Duelist Kingdoms characters make returns throughout the series and stuff, especially Rex Raptor, Weevil, and My Valentine and all that. But just I think it would be interesting.
Yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from. Like with you, strings would probably be the most interesting for me. I don't even recall if the Exodia guy had a name aimed, if I'm being 100% honest. But Loomis and Umbra would be kind of interesting because even though they were brainwashed and did bicker every now and then, it did seem like they cared about each other in a sense. Heck, if you win as them with them in Duel Links, there's no like threats or anything. Like they'll say, "Hey, I have the best partner in the world." It's like my partner's pretty cool. I'm like, "Oh, they care about each other. What were they like beforehand? What's up with this?"
Yeah, and I think getting like they could have done like a tag team duel with them and the Paradox Brothers having returned and been some of the main antagonists, not necessarily antagonists, but main opponents for the one. I guess you could have Joey and Yugi, or Yugi and Kaiba being a pair, but could have been a really interesting story and had them dedicating the duel.
Man, between the first Joey and Yugi and Jaden and Cyrus, the Paradox Brothers exist to be the best tag team in the world, and then lose. It's kind of sad. It's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, and they lose to school age kids when these guys are supposed to be professionals.
And they also lose to Joey, who, as much as I love him, was not good back then.
I mean, I think like every one of Joey's combos, he has to have someone else's card at this throughout the first part of the series.
I try not to think about that too much.
I mean, am I wrong?
No, I just try not to think about it too much.
I guess because Time Wizard is a gift, so technically that is his own combo. But
Yeah, well, yeah. Some of the rare hunters, while not all of them were the most interesting, but I do think some of them could have gotten more to work with. And by some of them, I guess I mean anyone except the Exodia guy, because why?
yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting if we got like backstory of how he got, I guess, what are supposed to be some of the rarest cards, but I guess aren't. I guess the Blue Eyes is more rare than the Exodia, because technically we know of 4 different sets of it existing.
Well, that's thanks to Kaiba and then tearing it up. But yeah, I get what you mean.
But that's just the minimum. There's also technically there's a 5th set somewhere that we know of, because it has to be used to summon another one person's deck.
Possibly, but I couldn't tell you.
So, all right, but yeah, I just thought those would be an interesting combination.
Sure, I can co-sign on to that.
All right, so your next one?
Mimosa Vermillion from Black Clover.
Okay.
All right. This is now I'm starting to get a little annoyed because I really like Mimosa. I think she's a really kind of cool character. I appreciate that despite the fact she's a royal in the world of Black Clover, she's actually a really sweet person who never once picked on Noelle for being unable to control her powers. But we really don't learn anything about Mimosa as we get older. We learned that she was nice to Noelle. We learned that her brother's a stuck-up jerk who she ends up hating. But I don't know. I just don't feel like she's been given that much time to shine outside of her healing everybody, which is cool. But I never feel like she's been given the focus of an episode or the focus of an arc. And I don't know. I don't know. Look, I just think that for such for a cool character to be as kind-hearted yet still relatively useful with her magic, I just feel like she doesn't get that much to do.
I can definitely understand that. I could definitely. Is she one of the ones that's turned into an elf?
No, that's the crazy thing. She wasn't possessed. So I'm like, oh, she's one of the few people who did not get possessed. This should be interesting. And it was kind of, but I don't know. There's something about her that's never sat right with me. As much as I love Mimosa, I'm like, I need more.
I unfortunately I can agree, because I think she feels like she was just created to be uh an obstacle for Noelle to like compare herself to, because another royal who has a very strong type of magic, and then and who also has a crush on Asta. So
Which is hilarious because they barely bring up the fact that, oh, both of these girls like Asta. If Asta and Noelle have a moment, it's completely Mimosa doesn't even know about it. If Mimosa and Asta have a moment together, Noelle is none the wiser. I don't need these two to bicker over Asta because that would ruin their friendship and ruin their relationship in my mind. But I don't know. So just like something realized, like what makes her so nice? I know we got like one scene or something, or how like I don't know. Oh, I give it a little credit because apparently in the manga, like something big is about to go down with her. But if I haven't seen it, I can't give it proper credit.
okay, so yeah, I mean, I guess if they do something where she's a major part of an arc, and we actually get to see her, whether it's fighting or serving as a major role in the story, then I could definitely see this being an improvement. But yeah, until she does more than just be there to heal whoever's injured, I don't see her as being overutilized at all.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, she is a but in the fan base, she's a pretty likable character, and it's a good sign that people can see her likable without being, yeah, but I want Noelle to be with us. I'm like, yeah, but nobody was saying that. We're just, you can like Noelle and still, okay. It gets frustrating, but it doesn't. I don't know. If enough people like her, give her something to do.
Yeah, definitely. It's I don't know. As I said, I'm trying to think of I remember anything. Did she do anything in the movie? I can't. I don't know if I saw it.
Oh man, it's been so long since I've seen the movie. I feel like she does. I feel like she does, but I couldn't remember off the top of my head. I thought about reviewing it, but when I first saw it, but stuff was going on. I'll have to rewatch it for that though.
Yeah, I yeah, that's one I'll have to give a shot. I do really enjoy a lot of anime movies that take place in animation, not live action, but the animation movies are
Yeah,
always pretty good.
that's another point for another day. But Mimosa, even if at one point I did say Asa Mimosa just makes me happier, but we're not going to get into that because that video. Never mind. What's your next one?
All right, so my next one, um, I don't know exactly how to pronounce it because it's been a while since I've heard the name. Uh, Urouge from One Piece. He's one of the seven or one of the supernovas or whatever, or the worst generation. He's known as the Mad Monk. I think every single one of the other members of this generation or this kind of classification has had episodes where they're part of something or they're shown as being having become lieutenants for someone else. And this guy has just not done anything.
How do you spell this person's name?
Urouge.
All right, okay. I put like rogue as in like never mind. Forget it. Go ahead.
Yeah, but he's the only time besides when we first meet him when they during the Sarah uh during the archipelago arc at the end of part one is when he watches Kaido attempt to commit suicide because he's gotten himself drunk and really wants to find someone who's strong enough to actually beat him and hasn't been able to. And it's just that's like the only other time I can remember. I know he shows up in some of the movies and stuff, but I don't know. He just doesn't do anything. He's kind of been a background character when it comes to these because I mean, Blackbeard um, is kind of considered the main antagonist. We've got uh, Law, who everybody loves and has been a main character for a long time. Uh, Bonnie is currently being used for the current arc. We had Killer and Eustace Kid were part of the Wano arc. There was Drake and Basil Hawkins, who were both part of the Wano arc as lieutenants under Kaido. This guy just hasn't done anything. I think that's all of them, and of course Zoro and Luffy, but they're their own characters and are on the main cast in every arc. So
Yeah. It's. I understand One Piece has like a wide variety of characters and just a lot of different lore, But like I've said before, it's slowly starting to get to the point where I'm like, God, there are a lot of characters. And I know this is 1,000+ anime, but it gets a little overwhelming sometimes. It kind of gets to the point where when people tell me I just can't get into One Piece because it's just too much, I can't tell them you're wrong, try again. I'm just like, no, I get it.
I can definitely understand that. If I started watching, I think when there were only 600 episodes of the English dub, and it took me probably a year and a half to probably get all the way caught up with breaks to watch other things. So I can understand it. Now, again, the manga's not finished, and he may play a part in the final story arcs, but other than that, he's he's just done nothing. So he's on my list. I think, especially because everybody else of his kind of classification of character has done something.
I'll give him credit though. He's always smiling, even in the face of adversity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and because I remember that I think when you cut to him, he's beat up from doing something, and that's the only time we've seen
Yeah.
him since.
Even when he is about to die, he is still smiling.
So, as I said, I put him on my list because he's just kind of one of those that I don't know whether I'll like him or not until I actually get more from him.
Yeah, I can co-sign on to that.
All right. So your next one?
Lavenza from Persona 5.
Okay.
All right. Whether it's Lavenza, Justine, Caroline, girls, whatever, doesn't really do anything. They're the Velvet Room, I guess, attendants to the point where they're supposed to be looking after the protagonist, looking after Ren and helping with his journey. But in in the anime, they don't really get that much focus. But even in the games, what they do kind of well is every time Joker completes a task for them, they start to look around and realize, huh, something's kind of off about what's going on. Our master might not be who he says he is, and that's kind of cool. Cool. And then it's revealed, oh no, these two girls are actually one girl named Lavenza. And then after that, Lavenza does nothing.
Yeah, remember this coming out of nowhere, and I've watched part of Persona 4, and I don't remember Lavenza, but I may not have seen all of Persona 4 all the way through, so I don't know.
Wait, four? What are you talking about?
I because I know the long nose guy is in 4.
Yes.
He's yeah, and I can't but I don't remember if these characters make an appearance in some form in the game as well. Like it's as I say, it's been way too long since I've seen any of that stuff though.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, even with every other game we've gotten, Lavenza kind of just feels like, oh, hey, I'm here. If you need to fuse personas, go ahead. I don't know. I'm not saying she needs to be the focus. I'm just saying for a character who got kind of twisted into almost killing the protagonist at one point, it doesn't really feel like we get that much with her. Heck, when they fuse together, it feels more like just like whether you, depending on who your favorite is, Justine or Caroline. Like it feels way more like she's Justine because Caroline was very irritable at times, but it's like, huh, it doesn't really feel like Lavenza is that all that often.
Yeah, I could definitely see if maybe they showed because I seem to remember they show a little bit of both personalities. So while they have that, if they were like 100% like two separate emotions and then they combine and you have someone who's actually got both like negative and positive emotions when it comes to this sort of thing, I could definitely see it as being maybe an improvement where uh, all that it kind of balances out kind of design.
Yeah, or heck, show some awesome power that we've never seen before to be like, okay, I can only use that like once. So the rest is up to you guys. Something like that. It it especially bothers me in particular because in the games, if you play your cards, if you go through everything like you do, it is revealed that she has feelings for the protagonist. I'm like, oh, okay, why? What, like for besides the fact that nothing can come from this, it just feels like more to add to the somebody else has a crush on the protagonist. Like that's not a character motivation for me. It's just you could do more with this girl, but you're just like, no.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, it kind of takes place so close to the end that there really isn't time for anything because it's isn't the big bad like the next bit of the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, huh?
So yeah, this feels like something maybe that you kind of stop uh what you think is the initial attack. You save her by I guess recombining her, and then you have a couple maybe mini story things that you have to do at least to uh connect with her before you go face the big bad.
Yeah. I don't know. Just I'd like Lavenza to save the day, especially since in some of the side games she can be kind of funny. Like she says, "Oh, hello, trickster," and at one point you can just say, "What? So formal?" She's like, "You're right. I'm sorry about that." From what I hear, people you hang around with seem to say, "What's up?" I'm like, "All right, I wasn't expecting her to say that." But I don't know. I kind of want this side of Lavenza more, or just more Lavenza in general. But the games and the anime just say no.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll co-sign. I need to, as I said, I've got the game. I just need to sit down and actually play it all the way through.
All right. Can we just do honorable mentions already?
Yep. All right. So my first honorable mention is from a show I haven't talked about yet. His name is Guy Greenwood. It's from a show called Reign of the Seven Spellblades.
Never heard of it.
It's a relatively new release. I think it came out in fall 2023. Um, it's kind of a Harry Potter-esque story. I don't know how else to describe it, but
Oh, it's a flippin' magic isekai. I should have known.
no, it's not isekai. They're not. They're the world is just magic in and of itself.
Any magic show you watch is automatically an isekai. At least that's how I see it. Regardless, what? Go ahead.
So there's pretty much it's seven people who are friends. That's where the seven comes from. Attending magic school, and they each kind of in this first season had something go on where they're connected with other characters and have stuff revealed, except for Guy. All the others you kind of learn a little bit about. The only thing I really can remember about this guy is that I think he's a farmer, if I remember correctly. And his magic is like he's wanting to develop his magic to help his parents farm. That's his whole story versus in season one. I don't know if it's getting a season two or not, but there's plenty more story from what I could tell that needs to be told of this series. And just if this guy could get a bit more development, because as I said, the others, we've got a girl who kind of fits the bill of she likes helping monsters. Her idea is magical fauna. His is magical plants, but we only see him use it like once or twice. Uh, then you kind of got the main cast that is like two or three characters that are the main focus and have more unique powers, I guess.
I will say though, just based on the magic, I am kind of interested in this show. But I got a lot of new shows on my plate. For anybody wondering why don't you talk about more shows? I'm like, because the stuff I'm watching only has 3 episodes out right now. I can't really say anything about it more at this point.
Yeah, I finished this show a while ago, and I was waiting for a list that something fit for this, and this is kind of the first one. As I said, all the others have actually unique episodes where they're the main focus, except for this guy.
Would you
So
at least recommend this show?
I would, if you can. The first few episodes take a little bit to get through, but there are some interesting storylines that take place. Probably starting about episode 5.
Yeah, okay. I can understand that, but at the same time though, I have been maybe I'll give it a chance at some point once things start to slow down.
Yeah, and there are some interesting because there are a few episodes that I think have a little bit of slice of life because it's a magic high school kind of thing, but then it's got fantasy elements, so it's an interesting combination in some aspects.
Yeah. I can definitely see that, but I can co-sign.
All right, so your first honorable mention.
All right. This girl's going to be an honorable mention because I don't know if because at this point I can't decide if she was used perfectly or horribly. I can't really tell at this point.
Okay,
Kolulu from Zatch Bell.
Okay.
All right, so the very first episode Kalulu's in is really early in the series. She's a very nice girl who ends up with her partner Lori, and they're like sisters because Lori's parents aren't really around all that much because they're always working. And Kalulu's powers are she turns into a frightening monster when spells are cast. And she hates it. She hates being this monster. So she asks Zatch to burn her book and eventually say, hey, what inspires him? And if the Momoto of our world was a kind-hearted king, we wouldn't have to go down and do all this fighting. And she fades away, but it inspires Zatch to become a kind king and the rest of his friends to become a kind king. That's cool and everything, but I don't know for sure if I like that. Part of me thinks it's cool, but at the same time, part of me also thinks, what if should she have lasted longer to maybe, I don't know, find a way to control her powers or find a power that's actually beneficial? Oh, that could like maybe heal somebody or just something along those lines. Apparently in the manga we potentially get something, but I don't know. Oh, because for such a key figure of the series, she lasts one episode.
I could definitely agree. I remember these episodes because I do remember the character being um having that power of turning into the monster, and I think that would be interesting. Whether she gains control, I could see it being more along the lines of she's I don't know, maybe her powers continue to develop. Maybe she starts gaining control of the initial ones, but then they unlock a later spell that causes her to completely lose control again, and that's what causes her. But that would give her time to develop and grow, but then also still be that kind of focal point of wanting to encourage Zatch to become the Momoto King.
Yeah. And it's also crazy because when Zatch first sees her, like, remember, Zatch has lost his memories. And at one point, like, he sees her and she's like, wait, Zatch? Like, she recognizes him, but I don't feel like we learned, hey, what was up with these two? Were they friends? Because everybody else remembers Zatch and they hate his guts for being weak, because I guess that's a reason. But I don't know, it seemed like she was much more open to being kind-hearted towards him, which I don't know. Going back and watching the episode, there's also this weird thing where he's trying to impress her with some toy he had, with the Vulcan toy he had. I don't know if that's because he had a crush on her or if it's just he wants to show off his toy because he thinks Kyo's cool and Kyo's not. But I don't know. There's stuff about her that's like that. I'm like, you know what? It makes sense that this was the episode she went on. But there's also stuff that makes me go, maybe this could have been more. But I'm split, so it's an honorable mention.
I'm trying to remember when she goes out. Does she go out having saved Zatch from another Momoto, and
No.
then maybe that could have been where she is forced to use her powers. She defeats the other Momoto, saving Zatch, and then, but she begs because she's scared of what she did. Like maybe it's like a complete destruction. She almost killed Zatch or something, as well,
Yeah.
or beat Zatch.
Well, technically, it's revealed Momoto can die. Their book being burnt has nothing to do with it. Penny almost learned that the hard way. But yeah, I do agree. Like I said, right down the middle, because part of me thinks this could have been so much better, but part of me also thinks for one episode, pretty decent. So, like I said, honorable mention, Kolulu.
Okay, I can co-sign. All right. So my next honorable mention.
Please.
So this is kind of a duo that's been relegated to the background. They had a lot more to do early on in the series, but has fallen off, and that's Oolong and Puar from Dragon Ball.
Yeah, yeah.
They had a really interesting power because they could transform into pretty much any item or person that they saw, and uh, but then after pretty much after Dragon Ball, when it became more all centered around the fighting and less around the adventure of finding the Dragon Balls, they kind of just changed to being background characters. They have a couple lines here and there. Poir still, I guess, is always with um, Yamcha, but other than that, I don't. Oolong just kind of shows up. It seems like, and I don't know how I would want them to. be a part of it. It just feels like that they could have been more, not necessarily in the fighting, but maybe in a story where they had to fool someone instead.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. I guess my thing is they always like at this point it feels like they should be maybe at most they could be feuding with like the Pilaf team because that's kind of where they measure up at this point. Not that it would be great necessarily, but it's more than what they've gotten to do in the past several years. That's the most I can come up with for them, sadly.
I mean, I could see them maybe having been in like the Resurrection F arc and fooling Frieza by one of them transforming into Goku or Vegeta temporarily and just causing him to be confused for a second. But other than that, um, I just, as I said, I don't know how I'd want them to be used, but I feel like that they've been underused since like the 80s that they were relevant in the series.
Yeah, I kind of have to I kind of have to agree. But they were never necessarily my favorites, but I definitely understand if anybody watching from the beginning is like, huh, I kind of miss them.
Yeah. As I said, with their unique power to transform, I mean, if it, I think it could have been used differently and added to the story, or maybe we could have gotten a story where they're the main focus and they're going after the Dragon Balls, kind of classic Dragon Ball style, and uh, that way we get something more along those lines versus the modern style, which is always it's just always what's the next tournament? Who are we fighting next?
Say what you want about Super, but it did have some pretty entertaining filler episodes.
It really did.
Yeah, but I can co-sign. I'm full disclosure. I had a Dragon Ball character on my list, but I kind of feel like I had to take him off because I threw Kolulu on there. So, yeah,
Whatever you feel like.
we'll see how I feel. Anyways, my next honorable mention:
Go right ahead.
Killik and Friends from Soul Eater.
Okay.
I just feel like these characters. Look, I'm not gonna act like these. Like I've said before, I'm not gonna act like these characters were like the coolest side characters ever. But Killick, Ox, and their other classmates, I just feel like they did not get anything to work with. I mean, Killick kind of has a rivalry with Black Star. Ox has a rivalry with Maka that lasts one episode on on the test day where he loses to Maka and Liz yanks his hair out for reasons, and he's stuck with that weapon in the he's stuck with that weapon in one episode. So I don't know. I always felt kind of sorry for these kids because it's not even like they're getting their butts whooped. It's just like, oh, they're just off screen.
Yeah, and kind of the only time I remember them doing anything where they're not just kind of background or side characters is the when they're in the Arctic land area for that one battle, and they help the main the main three groups fight to get access to the time distortion, and then that's kind of it. I think I don't know. Did they get more in the manga? Do you know?
It's possible, but I'm not gonna act like I've read the manga full being about being 110% honest. I have not.
Yeah, I could definitely see them being interesting because maybe they're not as strong as like the main three groups, but maybe being better, more stable. I guess is would be the right word because they kind of talk about how these three, the uh, the Kid Death team, the Team Maka, and Team Blackstar are all like really actually powerful for their age and stuff, but they're each kind of have their own issues that they have to overcome.
Yeah, as far as we concerned, these guys are just they're kind because they're kind of cool in a sense. But I don't know. Oh heck, there's a girl named Kim, and she apparently is a witch, and so I'm thinking, huh, how did a witch get in this school? That's actually kind of interesting. Oh no, no, they're just not gonna tell us. And I don't know. And she has this friend named Jacqueline who seems cool, but like I don't know, we don't really learn that much. We're told things about these characters, but we don't really get to see anything about these characters, and that's always kind of bothered me.
Yeah, they're as I said, they serve really well as interesting background characters, but we have a whole bunch of background characters in this show that don't do anything. These guys should have had connections with the main cast. They don't need to be in every fight, but maybe one of them could have come with on the when they escape the party before they're trapped up there and been a part of that. That could have been interesting.
I'll say it again, 51 episodes was not enough for this show. It should have been longer.
Yeah, because especially with that ending being so rushed, that needed to help.
Would you believe I've heard that after like further consideration, the manga ending's not much better? It might actually be worse in some areas.
That's disappointing. That's very disappointing because it was such a good show, especially I would say the first 2/3 are excellent.
Yeah, I'm starting to think you and I have more screen time in that show than Killik and Friends.
Well, we have an hour plus episode where we talk about characters and how we'd interact with everybody. So yeah.
And we didn't include Killik and Friends. Now I start to think about it. So it's our fault too, in a sense. Oh boy.
Yeah, but that's the problem is that we don't, besides a little bit of their personalities, we don't know that much about them.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I know I keep calling them Killik and Friends, but it feels like he's the star, or like who it's not like who else is there? I don't know. I just think that with all the interesting background stuff, especially with one of them being a witch, I think this could be really, really cool. But it's just like, no, we got to give more. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe someday we get like a remake or a sequel or something, but until then, like I have to be upset by this.
No, and I can understand it. We'll co-sign on this.
Sure.
All right. So my next honorable mention.
Please.
So I put Souei from That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. He's one of the ogre characters that are brought in kind of to serve as different levels of guard and just different things, but all the others have a lot more to do than him. So there's the two kind of female ogres fight over being the secretary to Rimuru, the main character. They're just because they want to spend all their time taking notes of everything he says, pretty much is their mindset.
Okay.
You've got kind of the main the general for Rimuru is one of the other ones brought in at this time. And then there's an older ogre who also serves as the trainer for like the army. He is literally training all the goblins and stuff to fight better. And this guy, he's a ninja. You'd think there might be something cool and stuff.
Sounds cool.
He doesn't really do much. I guess he's supposed to be that dark, mysterious character, but everybody else has their own unique connections and stories and stuff, except for him. He kind of shows up to be a messenger for Rimuru between like when they're fighting, and he usually kills soldiers and stuff, but he hasn't had a big fight that I can really remember where everybody else actually does.
That's really unfortunate because you said he's kind of a dark, mysterious character.
Yeah, I mean he's kind of that stereotypical ninja that you're supposed to believe can stealth anywhere, and he does pretty much that. But I wish he had a big like either a ninja fight or he took on someone who's. We actually got a full fight and got to see him do more than just stealth around.
Yeah, and that's what that was gonna lead me to my next one. It's like when you make a character super mysterious, eventually the audience is gonna want to learn more about them and see what makes them tick. And if you don't fall through with that, eventually the audience is gonna stop caring. And by the time you do it, there's a good to fair chance it might be too late. That sounds very frustrating.
Yeah, it's just as I said, all the other ogres. There's one other one, but he's in like the first episode that they're introduced, and one other episode, and you hardly ever hear him talked about anymore. He's serving kind of, I think, as a blacksmith for the village or something like that.
Yeah.
But this guy, he shows up and just, but we don't get to know much about him. It feels like.
That's wait, furthermore, I did not know there were this many ogres in this show because like this sounds like a lot.
Yeah, there. I think it's 6 or 7 total are found, and then there's the movie that introduced another one, but I don't know how much of that is canon because I know the movie is somewhat canon. It's weird that way.
Yeah. I can co-sign on to that, and the less Shrek memes said about these ogres, the better, probably.
Yeah, well, they're different style of ogre. We'll just go with that.
Sure, okay.
All right. So your next honorable mention?
All right. Alice from Bakugan.
Okay.
All right, so Alice starts off as kind of an interesting case. She doesn't really battle all that much, but she's kind of the, I guess, statistics or like the lead brains of the battle brawlers, and she doesn't really do a whole lot in the beginning. Now, later down the line, it's revealed that her grandfather might be the cause of what's going on in the Bakugan world of Vestroya and what's going on in the human world. And with Masquerade running around, that makes things all the more interesting since it seems like they might be working together. Only for it to be revealed in the end when Dan beats Masquerade, it's revealed that it was Alice in disguise. She didn't have that much of an idea of what she was doing, and she does feel remorseful for it, despite the fact that all of her friends are telling her, "Hey, it's cool, Alice. Like we can still fix everything." Eventually, she decides that she is Masquerade and kind of tries to use that power for good in season one. In season two, she kind of just disappears, along with, well, the other girls too. But Alice, I don't know, Alice bothered me.
Yeah, I remember always questioning like why, because I remember Bakugan being on Cartoon Network before school, like every single day, and it was one of those like, where did all these characters go? It's like half the cast is gone that were regular or recurring characters in season one. It was Dan. Oh God, I forgot how to say his name. The little guy with the blue who uses water stuff.
Oh, Marucho.
Yeah, Marucho, and then the dark brooding rival, and that's all I remember being in the next series.
Yeah, the girls come back every now and then, but they kind of just feel content to be like, well, no, I don't really feel like doing anything, which is fine. They don't have to, but at the same time, it kind of makes me go, huh, the only characters who are sitting out are the girls. That's a little, I don't
Interesting.
know. I don't know. The optics on that are not fantastic. And I know some of them come back and do stuff, but Alice, for how, like, wow, she started off like kind of mysterious, but still a sweet person, and then just grew to just like, it's like, oh, she's actually really part of the series. And then just fell off like, oh, I guess her story's done. Okay.
Yeah, I, I haven't seen this series. God, I guess since it may have come out all the way through, because I barely remember that
Yeah.
her being masquerading because it. So I guess that kind of explains why you feel that way the way you do.
Yeah, yeah. No, the reveal itself was decent, but I think it could have been done a little better. Like it's all on Amazon Prime. If you like, I still recommend the series. I think it's really good. And plus, I want to like we talked briefly about doing a video where we have our own background or whatever, something like that. But I don't know. Alice was just odd for me. Also, when I was a kid, I had a crush on Alice, so that might have something to do with it. But I don't know. It just felt weird for me.
All right, I can co-sign. I need to go back and probably rewatch, but I'll add this to the long, long list I have of stuff I need to either go back and rewatch or finish watching.
I'm starting to think the dictionary isn't as long as that list.
Probably not, but
Yeah.
you've admitted that you also have a list that's similar to mine. Just don't talk about how long it is.
No, no, and I wasn't going to talk about it and let you take the heat, but since you had to throw me under the bus, sure. All right. I kind I kind of have my Dragon Ball character. If you just want to let me get this one out of the way before you want to do your last one.
Go right ahead.
All right. Dabura from Dragon Ball Z.
Okay.
Dabura shows up and he's a henchman under Babidi. And admittedly, he has a cool moment where he freezes Piccolo and Krillin. It's kind of cool to be like, oh, this guy's kind of dangerous, despite the fact that neither one of those characters had done anything useful lately. At the same time, though, he shows fear and concern over Majin Buu and tells, hey, Lord Babidi, we have to get out of here. And then he gets eaten. And when he gets to heaven, he's a happy, peaceful angel. That's kind of it.
And isn't he don't they call him the Demon King? He's the
Yeah.
ruler of the demon realm, which is different from Piffle in
Yeah.
the series.
Yeah, he has his own. He is the ruler of a world, which I feel like he was in the wrong show. This is an isekai villain at this point. Like, but I don't know. I just feel like he exists as a general and just gets destroyed. And then even when he becomes a good guy, it's just too jarring. I'm a little more scared of happy, loving Dabura than Demon King Dabura.
I can agree, and I think it would have been more interesting had he maybe shown up, because I know there's, if I remember correctly, in the original Dragon Ball, there's an episode or a mini arc where they go to the Demon King realm, whatever it is, but he's not a part of that. So maybe if he had been a part of that, it could have we could have gotten more and understood him or had him interacting as part from the demon realm in some way with the series. But he's just kind of introduced this interesting place, is talked about, and then never brought back up.
Yeah, he doesn't even get that much love in Xenoverse, where he has a demon sister named Toa. You remember from like Xenoverse 1 and 2. She gets more to do than he does this one. I'm like, oh, okay, this is weird. Here, you introduce this guy's hot sister, and you're just like, no, that's all you get. I'm sorry, Deborah.
He's just disappointing, I think is the right word, because we don't even get to see him fight any of the main cast and see if he's actually like. It'd be interesting to have seen him maybe be on par with like Super Saiyan or something.
It seemed to me that they were building him up to be on like maybe an obstacle for Gohan to overcome, which would have been awesome. But at the same time, if you get done in by Boo super easily, how am I supposed to take you seriously?
Yeah, especially uh Boo in that form. If maybe if he had survived the initial Boo and lost his either Super Boo or Evil Boo or something, then it would be really interesting.
Yeah. But anyways, Deborah, you got replaced by your hot demon sister. I'm sorry, bro. Do you need some hot chocolate or something?
And she doesn't even want to resurrect him or anything. That's even the worst part.
It's just like Raditz.
ah,
Anyways,
character everybody forgets exists.
yeah, namely me and Toriyama, I guess. But who's your last underutilized character or characters?
So I put Romeo Conbolt from Fairy Tale on my list. He's starts out at part one as the son of one of the members of Fairy Tale, and the one time he plays any sort of part in the series is to beg members of the guild to go look for his father because his father has disappeared on a job. And that's all I remember of him until we get to part two. He kind of hangs out and talks about stuff, but in part two, after the time jump, he's now older and a member of the guild, but he's supposed to be kind of one of the, I guess, middle level at this point. He followed in kind of Natsu's footsteps and is a new fire mage. But other than that, he doesn't take part in the Grand Magic Games. I don't remember him fighting much in the war that ends the series. It's one of those, like, you would think maybe he would be a part, or you'd see him throw fire to Natsu or something to help revive Natsu, but he really does nothing. And I don't know. He's disappointing, I guess is the best way to describe him.
So, does he have anything to do with rescuing his own father, or is it just, hey, help, please?
No, he begs Natsu and Lucy to go save his father. because they're the only ones that are willing to take the job without pay. Because that's the issue, is that none of the other guild members want to go because there's no pay involved.
Jesus, these characters are making Team Rocket look like the good guys.
Yeah, and I think some talk about it being you don't dishonor another mage in this guild by going on their job to save their butts. And it's like, well, that's not what Fairy Tail is later on in the series. You go and help your fellow members.
No, when somebody needs help and they can't do something, you stand up and you help them. Oh God, oh man, I'm starting to think that there are going to be some Fairy Tail characters who I'm going to want a German suplex.
Yeah, probably, but it's not any of the main cast. I will say that it's just they kind of run around. He's running around and it's generic background characters. It's not any of the ones that actually stick around through the hard times and stuff.
When we're in this show, we're gonna help that kid.
Yeah, I could definitely see why being willing to help.
Yeah, but like there's just no hope for him at this point, though.
Not really. I mean, he's got an interesting power because he's got flames that do different things. It's the same power that one of the main bad guys from the what is it? I forgot what the name of the guild is, but they fight him early on in the series, and then he studies under this guy who turns to be more of a good guy. But other than that, he does nothing. And as I said, I wish maybe there was one where he gives Natsu a power up by giving him fire, or does more than just kind of play the little kid. If he had gotten to, maybe if he was part of Fairy Tail Team B in the Grand Magic Games, where he's proven himself to be a strong enough mage to compete. But he hasn't. That's the problem. And as I said, he's kind of relegated to being one of the many more interesting background characters in the series.
Do you think it would have helped if he became like the Konohamaru to Natsu's Naruto, like kind of looking at him at a big brother role, but still gets stuff to do? But like, not that Konohamaru's the most complex, developed character, but just like you understand what I'm saying, though.
I could definitely see that helping if he, because at this point he's part of the guild. Maybe if he had his own team, like there's Team Natsu, which has its own members. If he had Team Romeo, which is him and some other younger members of the guild that maybe join as part 2 goes on, would be kind of interesting.
See, I'm helping somewhat.
Yeah, no, I think that would really help in having them. I could definitely see an episode where Team Natsu's kind of following Team Romeo as they took like an almost S-class level mission, and they're following around just trying to make sure that they actually make it through this mission okay.
Yeah, I could see that, but I have to co-sign, but the videos like this are starting to make me upset because, like, wow, the ideas we're coming up with don't completely suck. And that's like, well, how would they? No, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we have some new ideas coming along, so we'll see how these new style videos do.
Goody.
All right, but your final one.
I'm gonna try my hardest not to lose it because we've talked about one of these characters before, and I'd like to talk. I'd like to think he was done dirty, but at the same time, when you really start to think about it, this whole group was just good. Was just massively overlooked. The Hyuga clan from Naruto.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not going to get into the whole BS of Naruto beating Neji. It didn't make sense in the long run. It didn't make sense. There's a lot about that doesn't work, but there's so much about the Hyuga clan that, for being considered the strongest clan in the Hidden Leaf Village, we don't really get to see that. We get hints that maybe one of them's in the bingo book for something. Don't really learn much about that. Hinata, while being somewhat of an integral character, does sort of feel like a lot of her character is built around Naruto, which in some ways is cool, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like she could have gotten maybe a little more to do. Hanabi is, I don't know, from sounds of it, isn't doing much in Boruto. I don't know. There's so much about these guys that to me is like really fascinating. Hey, not to mention the idea that they have really good vision and can scope out anything, which is why they only decide to use close range combat rather than, I don't know, something with range. But I don't know. To me, they never got the Hyugas right. And it's not like, oh, well, they don't do anything. It's like you are kind of ruining this clan.
I can agree because if you think about it, they're supposed to be now the Hidden Leaf's strongest clan because the Sarutobi's or not Sarutobi, the Uchiha, and then whatever the oh god, what um the two Tobirama and Hishirama
Senju.
Senju's have been pretty much wiped out at this point. So the Hyuga are supposed to be, I guess, the next closest descendants of the Sage of Six Paths, and they don't do anything like that special. It feels like that they should have some connection, maybe that requires them to, I don't know, be more involved with the village.
Yeah, and that's what really pissed. This is hopefully the last time I'm going to talk about this, but Lord knows it's probably not. But that's what really pisses me off about Neji's death. Not that you killed a beloved character, but you killed a beloved character without fulfilling anything about their story. No send off with Rock Lee, no potential romance with Tenten, and no like Naruto's the one who says, "Oh, I'll change the Hyuga clan." I'm like, okay, that's great and everything. I appreciate that, Naruto. But why do you have to do that? Let's do this instead. Instead of Neji, kill Hinata's dad, and have Hinata's dad kind of realize, hey, Hinata, Neji, I was not the best to you guys, and I am sorry for that. So I'm going to sacrifice myself, and it's up to you two now. How? And at that point, Neji and Hinata can like build up their chemistry, become really strong. And even when Hinata gets pregnant, you can be like, hey, Neji, you're from the side branch, and you technically aren't supposed to be this, but I think you should work towards being the head of the Hyuga clan because I gotta raise two kids. I don't know. I just feel like it could have been such a great story of you're a side branch and you were destined to be a prodigy, but not do that much. But you changed your destiny and became the head of the strongest clan of the league. I think that would have been brilliant. But no, what do I know?
I think this might deserve its own topic in and of itself, just discussing what Neji's story could have been and where we would be now if things had slightly changed. So I definitely think this could be a very fun video for us to do together.
I agree. And the sucky thing is people are going to be like, well, technically Himawari and Boruto. And I'm like, look, I'm not denying that technically that counts, but they feel more like Uzumaki's than they do. Except Himawari because she looks exactly like Hinata. I don't know.
Yeah, and they're not really, I don't know, because they still have Hinata's dad as the leader of the clan, so that's kind of there. So as I said, well, I think this one definitely deserves its own video, just where we discuss and come up with ideas on how we would change the series here.
Heck, it doesn't even have to be Neji. We can pick other characters from other anime, but just the Hyugas in particular just really frustrate me, especially since in the video games they learned some pretty cool stuff. Neji learns a technique that supposedly would shut off an 8 gates transformation.
Which would be a really interesting way of partnering someone who has that, and maybe like they're able to turn it off before they are completely destroyed or something.
Oh, I was actually thinking kind of the opposite.
Oh, where someone activates they're guaranteed to die. Then then Neji runs up, turns it off, and they die.
Well, not necessarily, because in the game, in one of the Ultimate Ninja games, it's kind of insinuated that Neji learns this technique after Rock Lee's injury. So to me, it's a little bit of a headcanon, but it always kind of came off to me that Neji knew deep down Rock Lee is going to come back from this. Rock Lee's going to get his legs back, he's going to be a great ninja again, but he's going to want to challenge me. I have to be ready. It's not necessarily canon, but I'd like to think that deep down he did grow to respect me and be like, okay, I respect you and I'm happy you're back, but I'm going to be ready. Because he was shook when Rock Lee was in 8 gates mode, as were the rest of us.
Yeah, and especially because of how fast the look on his face is like, he wasn't even trying in the fights that we've had before.
Hey Neji, you see this? I used this ace in the hole I saved this ace in the hole for you, which is probably why he ended up making Neji cross-dress a lot in the Rock Lee show. This was his form. I can't beat you on screen, so this is what you get.
Oh god, yeah. They changed Neji's personality I think a little too much in that series. Just he went along with stuff that they should have had him be more of the voice of reason, but they couldn't make 1010 be the crazy one either. So
well, I love Rock Lee and I love Guy, but I don't know if I could be the voice of reason for them either. I'd just be like, you know what? I'll go see what Kiba and Shino are up to. I'm sorry.
Alright, but yeah, no, I think I could definitely agree that the whole Hyuga Clan, their story always seems to be like rushed. It felt like whenever they do anything with them.
Yeah, the biggest thing you can say about the Hyugas is Naruto and Hinata got married, which is cool, but like that's not enough for me.
I can agree to that.
Happy for you, Hinata, but that's not enough. But can we close this out, please?
Go right ahead.
All right, so ladies, gentlemen, and others, who are some anime characters that you feel like were pretty underutilized? Any characters who you feel like on our list who you actually disagree with and want to see less of or thought their story was great? And for any characters, how would you have fixed them? We'd love to find out.
Yeah, and do you have any ways, like for the characters that we've given on our lists, that you think, oh, this is how they could have been improved or given more time?
Exactly. Just let us know, because as fun as this topic and talkative as we get, this is also a very frustrating topic when we start to think about it for too much. But anyways, just let us know. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Be good to yourselves, and we'll see you next time. This has been Alex.
And Richard.
And you have been listening to Anime Egotists. Good night, and peace easy.